And we are officially live. Hello everyone, my name is Matt.
I'm Lori.
And you have joined us for our accounting masterclass, the first one we've ever done.
Yeah.
This is exciting. We're going to take a deep dive into everything to do with the accounting feature to help you get more familiar with how to use it to its fullest potential. By the end of this, you'll definitely be an expert, I'm sure. Before we dive in though, we have a few resources that we want to share with you so that you can use after this masterclass is over.
That's correct.
We have a YouTube channel. In my personal opinion, this is going to be your best friend as you get into the accounting screen and learn how to use the feature and set everything up. I'm dropping a link into the chat right now. There we go. For the YouTube channel, go ahead and click on that link. Subscribe to that channel to stay up to date on everything that we're adding. How-to videos, equip videos, webinars like this one. It's a great resource. Be sure to subscribe. Tell them about our Facebook group.
So Matt, on our Facebook group, we have a great place for users. These are actually ChurchTrac users that can go on Facebook and ask questions of other users, see how you're doing things in the software, what you're doing, and get ways of utilizing the program that you may not be familiar with. So
yes.
It's a great tool.
Yes, we love the Facebook group.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a wonderful community with ChurchTrac users all over the world that would love to answer your questions, whether they be about accounting or other features in the software, or
all features.
Even things that have nothing to do with ChurchTrac.
Yeah, and I have seen those questions too.
Yeah. So go ahead and request to join there. Also, Lori, zoom in on that orange help button in the top right-hand corner of the screen. In your ChurchTrac account, whenever you're using the software and you ever have a question, in that top right-hand corner, there's that orange help button.
I can't zoom in.
It's okay. If you click on that orange help button, there we go. If you click on that orange help button, a little drop-down window appears, and in that window, there's a button to either view our support user guide or to create a support ticket and reach out to the support team with any questions that you have. So that if you ever need a little extra help and you don't want to wait on a Facebook answer, or you don't want to dig through a bunch of videos on the YouTube channel, you can reach out to the support team. They're amazing. Lori's, if you don't know already, if you've watched some of our other videos, you do know this, but Lori is our support manager. Our support team is awesome.
Yes, they are.
It's mostly because of her, but it's a great team. They're very fast in responding. Reach out to them if you ever have a question. They're great. You'll get the answers that you need there. All right, go ahead and let us know in the chat. I've actually got the chat wide open. You can ask all of your questions as we go along. I'll be keeping an eye on chat as we do this. Lori will be piloting the show.
Yeah. We may sink this ship, but it's okay. We're going to make it work.
We'll get to the destination, though, one way or another, even if we have to hop in a lifeboat.
That's right.
But she'll be piloting this thing. I'll be in the chat answering your questions. I may even call out a few of them as we go along. But don't worry, if you ask a question and we don't get to it, we'll have a dedicated Q&A time at the end, so you can definitely hold on to that question until then. In the chat, go ahead and let us know on a scale of 1 to 10 where you are in your ChurchTrac journey, with 1 being an absolute newbie and a 10 being a professional and you could take our jobs. Let us know on a scale of 1 to 10 where you are in your ChurchTrac journey. Would love to hear the answers, because I know a few of you have already answered a few things about like liabilities and accounts and some of the features in ChurchTrac that you're using already, but would love to know how proficient you are in ChurchTrac.
Right.
We'll go ahead though, and we're going to jump right on in.
Okay.
So Lori, give us the overview of what's in the ChurchTrac accounting feature.
Okay, so Matt, here's the thing. You know that I am really, really OCD about setting up accounting, but it's because your foundation absolutely has to be firm. Otherwise, moving forward, it just doesn't work, and then you have to go backwards, and backwards is never a good thing.
No.
So when you're setting up your accounting, and I have already got things in place here, my best suggestion to you is that you go in, that you set up your funds. People go, well, why would I do that first? Well, because this is building your foundation again. This is allowing you to set up the things you're going to be using and building upon those stepping stones. Yes. So the first thing you need to do is set up your funds. Don't worry about getting an amount in your funds. That comes later, and I'll show you how to do that. And we're going to talk about that because that is a very big question that we all get, support and our onboarding team. So this is important. So get your funds in place. A fund is a bucket, if you will, of where you keep your money and what the money is to be used for.
Yes,
so the general fund, right,
yeah.
Designated, is going to be your missions and your building and your youth and your children's ministry and these kind of things. But your general fund is what all the bulk of your money comes into and the bulk of your money is spent from.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind when you're running these scenarios in your head of how do I do this, okay? The second thing you're going to do is set up your categories. Now, I went in and set up general categories that most churches use. The question that we get a lot is, do you guys have a general chart of accounts? No, we don't start you with anything because every church does things differently, and we don't want to dictate to you how to do things. We just want to be there to help you do them. Okay, so your chart of accounts in some programs is actually your list of categories in ChurchTrac. What my best suggestion, and you've heard me say this 1,000 times, start with your budget.
Yes.
If you currently have a budget on a piece of paper, whether it's a spreadsheet or manually done or you're doing it in another program, take that budget and build your categories off of that. Now, the next question is, well, Lori, what about my fund? You don't build funds in this screen. This is your category window right here. Categories would be general offerings, and the properties of those general offerings let you link a fund.
Yeah.
You do not, absolutely do not want to build a category with the word fund involved.
Please don't.
My kids, sorry guys, my support team.
She's the office mom, by the way.
Oops, faux pas. When I'm telling them to teach this, I always say you don't want 3 kids named Billy.
Yeah.
You don't want a general offerings account or general checking, a general fund, and a general category, because then you have 3 kids named Billy, and when you run your reports, you don't have a clue what you're doing.
It's very confusing.
Okay, so make sure that your building program is linked to your building fund. I have flowers in here, missions for missionaries, flower expenses, blah, 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 utilities, yada, yada. This is just a list of all the things that you're going to be using to enter your transactions in the program. Once you have all this list built, and this is probably a hard one because it takes some thought,
yes.
Okay? Then you're going to go set up your accounts, and I have a for example and a credit card. So in your for example, you go in, you add a bank account, you walk through these screens. We have all this in our user guide. Matt and I have both done videos on this to help you out with this process. There's a series of questions that helps you decide which kind of account you have in here. Once you get your account in place, you're going to start with a beginning balance transaction map. You know as well as I do that this isn't one of my pet peeves. Your beginning balance transaction is the amount of money you have in the bank.
Yes.
Broken out into the way that it came in. All the designations, the general offerings, everything. You want that amount off of your bank statement that you're going to use to create your beginning balance transaction. You want your budget, your paperwork, your statement, all of this to keep this moving forward. Again, all this is covered in our videos, in our user guide, and on YouTube. Amazing tools.
Now, we have jumped ahead a little bit.
Have I?
Well, not really. I mean, the beginning balance, just to clarify, when you add an account and you add the beginning balance, you're only assigning that beginning balance initially to one fund.
Right, exactly.
You have to go back in and break it up. That's what Lori was illustrating just a second ago. You have to then divide up that beginning balance across different categories to get them into those different funds.
Right.
But that's presuming that you've set up the funds and the categories and connected those categories to their fund. That way, everything funnels into their proper place.
Correct.
When you edit that beginning balance.
He said overview. I was told overview. So I'm going fast with this because ideally, before you get to a MasterClass.
We're making the overview and the setup the same thing because that's what this is. So just to clarify something, just to kind of cover the terms that we use. Like Lori showed you the funds and the categories, and we're about to talk about the accounts. In ChurchTrac, an account is an account. In other words, it's
yes, it is, Matt.
It's a bank account. It's a financial account. It's your checking and your savings and your credit card and your mortgage and your money market account. That's what accounts are. Just to clarify these terms, your funds are not your accounts.
No.
Your funds are your separate balances.
That's correct.
I can't say separate.
Buckets.
They're the separate buckets.
That live in their accounts.
Another illustration is if you're familiar with like Dave Ramsey, he has the envelope system. That's kind of the same thing.
That's exactly what it is.
It's a file or a bucket or a folder that you're putting money into for a very specific purpose.
For a very specific purpose.
So that's what funds are. Your categories are essentially labels that you're using to label your transaction according to its purpose.
Right, exactly.
So whenever you run an expense, you label it like the coffee shop so that that's what you purchase coffee and stirrers and creamer.
Exactly.
You use the coffee shop category, and it comes out of whatever fund that's tied to, like the general fund or anything else.
Yeah, it depends on how it's used. Now, the one thing that Matt and I are not going to do is we're not going to tell you how to use your accounts as far as or label things, because that's basically specific to the church. And how they want to see things done. But we are going to talk about all of the things, Matt, all of the things, as Wes always says.
So we've talked about creating funds. We've created and assigned categories. Let's talk about adding or creating accounts specifically. Because I know you talked about the beginning balance, but let's talk about like adding an account, like a checking account and a credit card, just to illustrate the asset and the liability side of things.
So on the screen, I actually have I click the add bank account button, and in the new bank account, there are some questions that are asked of you. Is this an account held at a bank or financial institution? Remember, we're talking about actually true bank accounts that have account numbers, and it gives examples. So yes, it is. Do you have access to a recent statement? I'm adamant about this. Your beginning balance that you're going to enter on this bank account needs to be accurate. You need that data to actually put the correct amount in, okay? Can you receive it? Yeah, retrieve that information, yes. Name it. If it's Regions, if it's ViStar, if it's PNC, whatever, this is the account that you're using, so name it thus, okay? Is it an asset or a liability? We get this question in support a lot, and I'm sure you do too, Matt, when you're doing onboarding. An asset account is your cash on hand. A liability is a mortgage, a car loan, a credit card, something to that effect. So start with your assets, because if you don't have money in the bank, you're not going to be able to pay your liabilities.
Yes.
Okay. The date you start up, what's the date on the statement? It's typically... Every bank does this differently, and we talked about this before, but it's typically somewhere around the end of the month. So, for example, we'll just say the 29th of April because our bank does it on the last Monday of the month or whatever. The balance, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you can put a penny in here, or if you know that it's $12,364.82, put that in there.
Perfect. And then create the account.
Create the account.
That's all it takes. It's as easy as possible.
It doesn't get any easier than that.
This though is when you go back into that account just by clicking on it and editing that beginning balance. You can double click on that transaction or click the edit button at the bottom of the screen.
I'll show you that. So you blew it and then edit it.
Blew it.
I'm a double clicker. You blew it.
This is where you can then add a line item by clicking that add line button to the right, and then add a new category and a new fund and enter an amount in that second line. The only thing you have to be aware of is you have to subtract that new amount from the amount in that first line item.
Because your total should always remain the same. Now note, when I put that line in there, Matt, I put missions and it defaulted to my missions fund. This is why you build your funds and your categories so that you can use them in your transactions.
Yeah, because that's the reason why you create, or like you assign a category to a fund.
Yeah, you default
That's how
them.
it defaulted to that.
That's
because
correct.
You've already done that. You've already connected the missions to the missions fund.
And this association works if you're entering giving as well. So if you're using the accounting screen and you're entering giving screen contributions, your missions money should automatically default to the missions fund, provided you've taken the time to set your categories up correctly. Mm-hmm. Okay?
So now that we've set up the funds and the categories, not to sound like a broken record, we've also added our accounts. We've edited that beginning balance to break up that beginning balance into those different funds. What's the next step that a user should do once they're done with that?
Well,
you're the support manager. Reach out to the support team for a review.
Want you,
yes.
Believe it or not, we actually want you to take a minute to click that orange help button and ask us a question. And this is going to allow you to create a support ticket. We want to review this.
Yes.
I know that sounds like you got to be kidding me, but no, we actually do. We want to be helpful so that when you build this foundation, this is a firm foundation, not built on sand, but built on rock. Okay? And so we want you to be able to use it going forward. Remember, you may be the treasurer today, but you're not always going to be the treasurer. Somebody else has to come in and use this later.
Yes.
And they need to be able to pick it up and run with it just as if you were doing a relay race. Mm-hmm. And if you cut my hands off, I couldn't talk. So now, Matt, let's talk about what?
Well, payees. That's the next thing to do.
Gosh, I love my payees.
Because funds and categories and accounts are all the foundation, right? You have to have those blocks in place to build onto.
Right.
Your payees are your vendors or the companies that you're paying.
The bills you pay every month.
Yeah, the bills that you pay every month.
So the idea with the payee is that you go up here to the top and you click on payees and you're going to add a payee. This is actually really important because before you get into importing or syncing your bank transactions or manually entering these, you want to be able to access this screen. I didn't spell electric right, I never do.
There we go. There we go, electric company.
For those of us who are my age, there used to be a show called The Electric Company.
Oh, I've never heard of that one. I am not your age.
Wah, wah, wah.
All right. So yeah, this is how you set up your payees. The really cool thing about creating a payee is you can go ahead and add all of your categories and funds and amounts. And you can even break up across multiple line items.
Yeah, it can be multiple line items. Say you were entering the pastor's paycheck or a staff paycheck and you wanted to build in the withholdings and you wanted to build in, everything. It would automatically, when you pulled up the payee, in your transaction register, it would just drop all that data in. And if it's the same thing every month, it can actually have all of the amounts already assigned.
Yes,
for your electric
perfect.
bill, it doesn't usually, unless you're on like budget billing or something, it's not usually the same. But you can go in and you can put the mailing address that you want printed on the checks that you're mailing. This kind of thing. So when you get done, you simply go in and enter the information and then you move on to the next one. And then you would do, I don't know, the yard guy.
Yard guy. That's me. I'm the friendly neighborhood yard guy here at ChurchTrac.
You are. You're the green thumb, man. I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
So this would be something that I would do under building maintenance and lawn care. Okay, and say we pay him $125 a week to do this. Okay, we can put a memo on the check, or you can actually build a tag if you want to be able to search this later. For example, if you're doing a 1099 later and you put a tag on here for yard guy, you could search yard guy in your reports and pull that up. So it did not type, Matt.
Oh, please enter a valid amount. There you go.
That's because I had typed over my money. Okay, just keep building. Now the beautiful thing about this, Matt, is I don't have to do anything else.
Yeah, that's it.
Just use them.
Yeah.
Just keep adding. I can have a report that tells me, because I have actually gone into accounts and seen like 50 payees in here. So you can have a report of the payees. I also a lot of times get the question of, how do we move these around? Well, these little arrows, look, when I hover it, there's a little hand. You just move it around whatever order you want them in.
Yeah, and so obviously the most used ones
you put at the top,
and the ones that are kind of rare you put down at the bottom. So that's how to set up payees, how to edit them, how to customize them.
Is this useful anywhere else?
Oh, well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's go into the accounts, though, and talk about how to actually use that register on just a regular day-to-day basis.
Okay.
So Lori just selected the general checking account. Let's say you've added your beginning balance. Well, let's imagine that we've added our beginning balance for like the beginning of the fiscal year. So we're literally getting started. We want to go back to the fiscal year and then catch ourselves up all the way to the beginning of this year, or to where we are now, I should say. To add a transaction, just click that Add Transaction button in the bottom left-hand corner, and then fill in the information about that transaction, like the date that transaction occurred. It doesn't really matter. We'll just use today's date as an example. Select whether it's an expense or a debit, or a deposit. And in the reference section, you can label this as like a transaction or a payment. You even have a journal entry. I like to point that out because that's a question that comes up pretty often.
Absolutely. And this is a free text box. I don't know if you know that or not.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay, so you can put in anything there. Cool.
Anything.
But if you click on that arrow again, there's also an option to enter the next check number. I like to point that out because that's just going to make things really easy as you're recording
After
checks.
you've entered your first check.
Yeah, after you've entered your first one. This is a brand new account. This is a blank slate. So Lori would have to type in manually that number. Perfect. And then in the payee description drop-down menu, this is why payees are important. Because now all she has to do is select electric company, and that information pulls right in with that utility bill, the fund that it comes from, and now she can manually enter the amount, since that's going to be different from one month to the next. But if it had been a regular bill that's the same every month and you had saved that amount, you wouldn't have even had to do that.
I'd just save it and keep moving.
Click save, and you're done. That's it. That's all you have to do to record or add another transaction in ChurchTrac. Now we'll talk about importing later, but if you're going back to the beginning of the fiscal year as you add your beginning balance, you can import or sync your accounts to pull in all those transactions all at once.
Make it easy. Make it easy.
Talk about that a little bit more a little bit later. Speaking of checks though, I brought up the check number because you can also print checks with ChurchTrac.
No way, dude.
In this register, since we have that electric bill, if we click the print checks button in that bottom toolbar, since we entered that check number, there it is waiting for us. We can highlight it and then print that selected check. If you click the printing options button in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, this is where you can customize the layout. Because I know I'm going to go ahead and just answer some questions I know some of you are thinking right now. You don't have to have a certain kind of check to use this. These numbers here, this column of numbers, allows you to push the margins around and customize exactly how our system prints onto your check. So you can make this line up with the check you're using now.
As long as it's on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper.
Right, yes. Yeah, that's the one condition.
The one condition.
But as long as you have that, then you can print using any kind of check onto, you can use this to print onto any kind of check.
Exactly.
And then you can close that, and that's how you would use the printing checks option with ChurchTrac. The only thing you have to do is you have to have that transaction already loaded on the register with the check number.
Yes. With the check number. I will say this, we have this come up occasionally, that these positions are a little off. There is a fit to page option in the print preview that will skew the printing, and it makes it go like this. So yeah, it's a little wonky. So the top check will print right, and then everything else kind of goes down into a V. So make sure you uncheck that box, and then if you have 3 checks per page or you're doing vouchers, it still should fit properly. If it doesn't, always reach out to us. We're so glad to help.
Yes. Now, one last thing I want to point out. Lori actually already kind of showed you this when she created the Yard Guy Payee, but there's an option to add a tag to any transaction, whether you're doing it through the Payee section or if you're just entering a transaction manually, you can add a tag there. I want to point that out because that's going to come in handy later. When you're searching.
Or we're doing reports.
I almost think of, this is just how my brain works, I think of tags almost as like a folder. And you can just, this is basically your way of saying, all right, all of these transactions are of a kind.
Right.
And we're all putting them over here in this area. And then in the search section,
so we can find them later.
You can easily find them later just by typing in that tag.
You can also attach files, Matt. That's really a cool feature because I've got an electric bill here. What if I want to scan in my electric bill and attach it right here? Because you have file storage, you're able to do that. Put your file in here, attach it to here, and save it. And guess what? It's always there for a reference. Because why was our electric bill only $695 for the month of June when it's 90 degrees outside? Well, you know, we got a credit or something back. I don't know.
Exactly. Also, you can upload almost any kind of file type into that. So much so that, like, if you're not in a position in the moment to scan a document or you don't have an electronic copy, just take a photo of it and upload the picture.
That's it.
Gordon asked, thank you for this question, can you have multiple tags for a transaction? And the answer is yes. You can add several tags to a transaction and use any one of them to search later on. So,
we're going to show you that in just a hot minute.
We've talked about printing checks, accounting tags. Let's talk about bank sync and import. Because the scenario is we've set up from the beginning the option to this is a brand new account.
Brand spanking new.
We want to talk about how to import like a
bank statement.
Bank statement, thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Or link it to your actual bank account so that happens automatically. Where do they do that? So
there's 2 options, Matt. There is the bank link.
Yes.
Now, my accounts, because these are examples, are not going to be linked, okay? But I will tell you, and I mentioned this to Matt earlier, I do not want the assumption to be that, well, if we can't sync to the bank, it doesn't work. That is just a small benefit
Yes.
to being able to connect to your bank account and automatically bring those transactions in. If in fact you have a bank statement and you get that from the bank in electronic format, that's a QIF, QBO, OFX, there's one more
Yes.
I always leave out. But anyway, you can still import those transactions. The screen is exactly the same.
Yes,
Okay?
perfect.
And it works the same. So in our example, we're going to use our for example account, and we're going to import a bank statement, okay? Because again, I don't want to bring live transactions into our
Right, of
account
course.
because, you know, that's not...
Privacy matters, yeah.
Privacy matters. I like that, privacy matters.
Yeah.
So we're going to upload a file. So you simply drag your file over here.
Go to downloads or iCloud Drive. There it is.
There it is right there, okay? You open it, it goes right in and fills this. Now this screen that I'm looking at, Matt, this is not my account register.
Right. This is
the
a
import
separate
screen.
Yeah, this
okay?
is an import screen.
So for example, here's my account register. It's still empty.
Yeah, except for the beginning balance and the one we added.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the transaction import's over here. So I like to see everything. I do not like to be left in the dark. So
There
I
we
like
go.
to see everything. And
Yes.
so I have the ability to go in here. This is beautiful. I love this. Just let me tell you. I have the ability to go in here and so here's a check. I can go in here and here's my reference number.
nice.
It puts it all in here. If this is my draft and not this, or this is the account number, by the way, but it comes in and I just add this transaction. I can do this manually one by one, but what is this? I don't know what this is.
You mean like the payee description?
Yeah, it says share draft 9876. Well,
Yeah.
I know it's a check number, so I can go back to my original register and I can go in and look at it and go, oh, check number 1562 was to Walmart.
Yeah.
So what was it for? Make sure you update your categories, Matt. It's so important. This was an office.
An office expense or something like that.
Yeah. So we're gonna say we bought an expense for the coffee bar. We went to Walmart and bought coffee filters and the
Perfect.
stuff.
Yeah, stirrers and creamers and everything.
This allows me to track expenses and not deplete my general offerings income category.
Yes.
Because income is for money that comes
coming in. Yes.
not expenses going out. So you want to make sure you update this. Once I have updated it, I can move on to the next one, or I can say add this transaction, and it goes ahead and it puts it directly into my bank account. Boom, there's check number 1562 categorized.
Nice.
I love it.
Perfect. Now, Lori was emphasizing the fact that this is a this is an import screen, not the register, because we get a lot of questions from people when they do especially the bank sync, and they think that just by creating that bank sync, those transactions automatically import, they're dumped into their account, and they don't have to do anything. The fact of the matter is they're basically put into a holding pattern. They're put into this separate folder where you then have to review them, make whatever changes like the category and the fund to make sure that matches, verify that the numbers are correct, and then you're able to add that to your register. We just want to clarify that because we get a lot of questions on that. But yeah, it's great. It's extremely helpful. It takes out half the work that you would have to do manually, but you do still have to monitor this and verify things before it's added to the register.
And the program learns, if you will. It learns.
Okay.
It has the ability to see the same things coming in over and again, and it helps to start categorizing or anticipating what's coming. But Matt, there are also rules.
Perfect. This is going to save you all a lot of time. It does require a little bit of work on the upfront.
You're just building it. That's all you're doing.
The rules are great because they allow you to create almost an automation in the sense that whenever you do the import or the sync, our system will be able to read those transactions and know what you want out of it.
Correct.
And then make those changes for you.
So when you add your rule, and Wes is really good at this, just off the fly, he's apply this rule to transactions in for my for example account. I can change the payee. It contains payroll. Automatically apply the actions below. Change the payee name to staff. I don't know. This is just, again, what category do I want it automatically assigned to? any tags I want added. Matt, I love the fact that I can add tags to anything.
Yes, perfect. And again, that just makes it easier to search later on.
And then I have my rule. Now, I have seen some amazing rules built into this platform. It's so cool to see because you know what you're doing accounting for. So your rules are good in that the things that happen weekly, like there are some bills that get paid every week. Use the rule.
Another reason for a rule, though, is sometimes the import from the bank, whether you're doing an import or a sync.
Oh, it's so generic.
Well, it's generic, but also there'll just be like this long string of random letters and numbers that don't make any sense to anyone except for the computer at the bank.
Right.
And so a rule allows you to clean that up. You know, oh, well, the bank always applies that string to a bill from the electric company.
Right.
So I'll just set a rule that changes anytime this transaction has that string, it changes the payee to this name.
Right. And that's perfect. Once you've added the rules, the really cool part is you can add a rule and then return to the import and then hit the actions button and reapply the rules now. Every time you reapply a rule, some of these transactions come right out of your check register. It's so cool. So once you reapply the rule, things change and things go right into your checking account and you say, prove it. I have a lot of customers that do that. I didn't set up a rule that had a payee in there or a letter in there, but that's okay. I actually did. It must have gone somewhere else. Like this one, Christian Care Men. This is an insurance payment. Mm-hmm. So when you see Christian Care Men, you change it to insurance and update it. These are things that are going to make your life easier. And I know that you guys are thinking, oh my gosh, there's so much to do here. This is an elephant, Matt. An elephant that you eat one bite at a time.
Yes.
Accounting is not something you jump into with both feet and you don't intend to make a big splash at. I mean, this is a cannonball. Right? I mean,
you're going to get wet.
You're going to get wet. So utilize the tools that are built into the platform for this to allow you to move forward and move forward easily. And as you learn and the system learns, together you're building a foundation that's going to totally and completely make your life so much easier. Again, think about it this way. You have to do the work to be able to get the benefit of the paycheck.
Yes. Now that's rules. Let's talk about another word that starts with the letter R, reconciling.
Oh, my favorite.
This is our favorite because this is crucial for maintaining accountability and transparency with ministry, church, accounting, and finances. So we've created an account. We've added the transactions. Let's imagine that we've done the imports and the sync and we've got months and months worth of transactions added into the accounting screen.
Months and months, huh?
Months and months, yes.
Oh, you're making me nervous.
Let's go to the account screen, go to the for example account, and let's reconcile this. So you, as the treasurer, have dotted all your T's and crossed all your I's. You verified that everything is correct. You go in and want to reconcile. You go in and reconcile this. Just to lock those transactions.
Matt, how do you do a reconciliation?
Well, you go to that register itself and then click that reconcile button at the very bottom. And this is still bank sync or the import.
Oh my goodness, yes it is. Let me address something on this screen.
Yes, I just tipped off one of her hobby horses.
Sorry. But accounting is my pet peeve, you have to understand. When you import your transactions, okay, now mind you, these have import account register looks like this and has general offerings everywhere. Shame on you. Delete it and start over. But this is for example. That's why the account's named for example.
Yes.
All of these C's mean one thing. They're little C's.
Okay.
They only mean that this transaction cleared the bank.
Right.
That is all.
That doesn't mean it's been reconciled according to your records, that you also have not verified this.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that every transaction that you have written is in this register.
Yes.
If you've written checks that are not in here, if you have written credit card bills or gone to Walmart and spent money and you don't see it and you just run your debit and they're not here, you need to manually enter those. I cannot stress enough, you cannot reconcile unless all of your transactions are in here, whether they have cleared the bank or not, because you want a complete and accurate financial picture. Did I beat that hard enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Now let's run through how to reconcile.
Okay. So when you initially reconcile your bank statement, you have to have a bank statement. You cannot just go on those electronic imports because that's not going to do it. You need the bank statement because there's critical information on that statement.
such as the opening and
closing
the
balance.
Closing balances.
That's right. So your statement opening balance is going to be your last reconciliation or your beginning balance transaction that has the big R on it. That's where that data is pulling from. If it's not correct, you need to stop what you're doing and go back and put the right data in place so that your beginning balance transaction is correct. Okay? Your statement ending balance, it can be whatever number is on that bank statement and the statement ending date. Just like with the beginning balance date, Matt, you want your statement ending date to coordinate with that bank statement.
Yes.
Okay?
It has to match up.
I'm going to steal some data over here just because I can.
Yep, she's just writing it down real quick to make sure she has it so we can do it in the
yeah,
thing.
Because I
forgot to grab it a second ago.
I did. I also wouldn't have remembered it.
There we go.
I'm going to say my statement ending date is the 25th, and I'm going to continue. Now, when I continue, I did nothing, Matt. I did nothing.
Yeah,
all I did is click the button. My fingers are up here. I haven't done anything. So my cleared balance shows a difference of $1,790.31. Okay, these check marks that you see here are all pulling from those cleared transactions.
Right.
My question to you would be, well, how am I supposed to know
Where's
what?
the discrepancy? Yeah.
Yeah, where's the discrepancy? This is where your bank statement comes in.
Yep.
You have to have that to compare what cleared the bank on this statement or what came in during this process. That's where you have to have this. I'm not going to answer any questions further about that or do anything further because you have to have your tools in place to build off of.
Yes.
Okay.
You can't build a house without a hammer.
That's right. And wood.
And wood.
And nails. And a little concrete. But that's how you get started. So if you're going in here and you're only seeing C's and you don't see any R's, or there is not, and this is, again, a pet peeve of mine, they go in, I've reconciled my bank statement back to 2019, and you don't have anything in this column, then you have not reconciled your bank statement back to 2019.
Not for a very long time. Yeah.
So,
and that's the benefit of reconciling is that it locks that transaction so that it can't be changed retroactively.
It's not edited, and it's a permission to even be able to unreconcile.
Yeah.
But
don't they have to reach out to the support team, or is it something they can do?
No, they're admins. Admins have the ability to have that reconcile or provide somebody the ability to unreconcile, depending on the user, if it's a treasurer or whatever. But it's strongly recommended that you don't have many cooks that have that ability, because you don't want people going in here and unreconciling, changing numbers, and then not being able to reconcile because you changed a number. Not a good idea.
Never.
Okay. All right.
That's reconciliation. Let's talk about doing the accounting search. I think this is going to be really, really helpful for people going forward. Because if you have multiple months of transactions and you have to go back and verify something, or or
you're questioning, or you just want to find a transaction, or
maybe you need a receipt that you uploaded.
Exactly.
You have to be able to pull it up. All you have to do is go to the search tab at the very top of the screen in the accounting screen. And then under search, click that edit search button to the top right. And this is where you can type in what you want to look up. So go down to the tag section and type in yard guy, because you used that earlier. Yard guy. I don't know if we actually added a transaction with that, but let's go ahead and do it anyway. So go ahead and submit. And nothing comes up because you created that as a payee. I'm just realizing, but you didn't actually add that transaction. But that's okay.
That's
how it works, though.
How you see if something did connect or didn't connect. Or if it's been used because you created the payee. Well, have I paid the yard guy? That's a good question.
It looks like we haven't actually done that yet. Whenever you do a search, what's really cool is you can also perform run a report on all the transactions that came up in that search. And again, this is a great way. This is where you're using your subcategories, you're using your tags, you're using your funds to run a search and then pull up transactions related to just that information. You can use a date range to limit the search or expand the search. You can even create a report title for this after you've run it. So if you click that view report, you have a PDF with all that information. Obviously, you can imagine having a bunch of transactions on that. And you can even export that to a CSV if you need to add that to another spreadsheet.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will be honest with you, when you guys write into us and you say, I have a problem with XYZ and I can't reconcile, or I can't make this happen, or whatever, we go to this search tool and we utilize this abundantly because it is such an accurate and amazing tool. And because you can run so many different variables with this, you can actually cone down. Like, I've had people write their transactions, Matt, in the wrong account, and they're like, I know I put it in there, but I can't find it. Well, sure you can. Use the search tool, find out, leave all accounts, and you'll figure out where you sent it just by running that report.
Easy. Now, speaking of reports, let's talk about reports. There's a reports tab in ChurchTrac that has all the different reports that you need to understand your church's financial position. Right off the top, let's talk about the first thing we see here, the balance sheet and the income statement. Your income statement, for some of you, I know some of you have already mentioned like Quicken and QuickBooks, so you're going to be familiar with this. The income statement is the closest thing to like a profit and loss statement.
That's correct.
This is showing you all the money that's come in, all of the expenses, and your net position.
And every category and fund you use in that process.
Yes, within the two dates that you set here on the left-hand side of the screen. So you can do this like quarterly, you can do it annually, you can do it monthly. You can make sure you have the parameters set to run the reports that you want to run. But beyond just the regular balance sheet and the profit and loss or income statement, there's also category and fund reports.
So helpful.
So helpful, because this way you have like a detailed record of your transactions per category, or even across all of your categories.
Right.
You can expand your view and see all categories and funds, or you can hone in on something very specific. Just to get as granular as you need to get a good view of your church's finances.
And the best part about this is, Matt, these reports are not account specific. So when you're running these reports, they're accounts wide because categories and funds are not account specific. They're not intended to be.
That's something we probably should have specified earlier. You don't have to, and I want to say this because I see this churches do this a lot.
All the time.
They create an account on the account screen and a fund that corresponds with it. And they think that it's just a one-to-one correlation.
Right.
Whereas you can have money in an account, and you can, like we showed you with the beginning balances, you can break that up across multiple funds.
Right.
So your funds are not tied to an account, and your accounts are not tied to a fund.
Intentionally.
Just not calling anyone out, but I've talked to a lot of churches that have used the bank accounts in the past, have like used accounts with the bank the same way we use funds. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like they have a missions checking account, and they have a youth checking account.
And it's so that they can keep all those designations separated.
Yeah, it was smart to do that, but they bring that into the ChurchTrac software, and they create a fund for youth and a checking account for youth.
It's not necessary.
When really they can consolidate all of those checking accounts into one and just track everything with their funds to make everything simple.
Absolutely.
So that's the reports. Most of these reports can be exported to a spreadsheet. So Lori, if you just click on one of the other ones, you can export to CSV. I want to point that out because I know some of you like your spreadsheets a lot.
A lot.
Not only do you like your spreadsheets, but frankly, some of you want to have a lot of reports in combined reports.
Yeah, squished all together.
Yeah, have them all in one place, and you can do that by exporting them to CSV and
then put your columns in. Yeah.
Now let's talk about creating a budget. That's something we haven't talked about yet. We've briefly mentioned budgets, like using them to create your categories, but we have a whole entire tool or feature for budgets in ChurchTrac.
And if you note, there's nothing in my budgets.
Yeah, it's currently empty.
Why?
Because, well, you haven't actually created one yet.
And it's so easy to create that
we're going to do it right now.
We're going to do it right in front of you. So as hard as this is going to be, we're going to go and we're going to select the only option under actions. We're going to create a new budget. We're going to name it, for example, I like that a lot. It started in January of 2024, and we have an annual budget. Matt, this budget is for 12 months. Okay? It's not 1 month, it's not 2 months, it's not a quarter. This is an annual budget.
Right.
Everything we're putting in here is over a 12-month period.
Now, but you can create like windows for certain budgeted items, though.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm jumping ahead.
Don't be doing that.
All right.
All I'm doing is checking off what I want in my budget. Well, I'm going to get to one thing in here, and you're going to go, why wouldn't she have checked that off? You know, we have snow removal in here too, Matt. You know,
Oh, yeah?
we're in Florida. We have so much snow. That's one of the cheapest items on our budget.
Now, why don't you go ahead, though, and go ahead and create the budget, because I think we've checked off enough.
Because I really wanted to get to this one.
Oh, the taxes. Okay, I see.
Note here, non-budgeted tax payments. I did not put those in on purpose, okay? We're gonna create the budget. I know, I get in trouble for time, okay? Note, my for example budget displays through May 31st because May 31st is Friday and it's the end of the month. So ideally what it's gonna do is it pre-populates everything that's been entered into your accounting register, okay? That's every category that you've used, pulls from whatever accounts they're in and dumps it into your budget.
Including on the giving screen.
Including on the
As
giving
long as that's been deposited into the accounting screen, that pulls in so you can see your position in your budget in real time.
And so you want to add your budget numbers, you can do them here. So we would say that we have a $300,000 budget. Did I put enough zeros in there?
Nice.
Okay. So up to this point, we're under budget. That's why it's this.
That's why it's red now.
We'll call that red. Sure, we will. But if you want to go in here and edit your whole budget, you can edit this whole budget and just go in here and manually add all of your numbers in one fell swoop at one time. This is where having your documentation, Matt, is really important, because when you go to set this up, this is so easy to do. It's just tabbing through these fields and popping in these numbers. Then when you close, your budget updates automatically and it's done. Where do I get my budget reports, Matt?
Click the Actions button in the top right-hand corner of the screen. And then in the middle of that list of options, there's a budget reports in the menu. So go ahead and select that. You can find just yearly budgets, budget versus actual. You can compare that budget to another budget you've already created if you've been using this for a little while. It's really useful. And again, you can export most of these to a CSV.
You can. You can also, well, there's my example. See, there's, oops.
Whoopsies.
I didn't mean to actually do that, but it was a great example anyway. One of the things that I really like about our budget, Matt, is so cool because some people don't budget all the subcategories. They only budget the parents.
Yes.
Okay? So when you have the parent, which is the bolded writing, these are subcategories underneath. So if you just squish that up, okay, you can say my budget is $10,000 for my missionaries this year. When I close this, it dumps it all in and it puts it here. Note, when I open this up, there's nothing here. It just rolls it all up here. Your reports work on those opens and closes too. So that really gives you some good tools.
What she means is, whenever you have your budget open like this, and you have that parent category either opened up to show the subcategories or you have it collapsed, that's how it will display on the budget as well. So if you want your budget report to show those subcategories, make sure those parent categories are expanded.
Right.
If you don't want them and you want to simplify things and just have the parent categories display on the report, have those collapsed.
All squished up.
Yep, all squished up.
All squished up.
But just keep in mind that when you collapse them, it takes the amounts assigned to the subcategories and rolls them up into the parent category.
That's right. The other thing that you can do is hide all subcategories, and it automatically squishes everything up. I know that's a technical term that I like to use. I like the word squish.
Yeah. Now, one thing that you mentioned earlier this morning before we started this is whenever you're creating your budget and you're selecting those categories, checking them off, you can leave subcategories unhighlighted so that they're not added to the budget. However, if you've added the parent category to the budget, even if you leave off the subcategory, whatever amounts that are assigned to that subcategory in your accounts will still appear under the parent category.
That's right.
So like if you have a subcategory and you don't want it included in the budget, don't put that subcategory under a budgeted parent category. He said it just like I wanted him to. Woo! Brought that one in for the landing. Perfect. Now, we have a video on our budgets feature. If you're having questions about how to set this up or how to use this, we go into great detail. I'll grab that video here in just a second and drop it in a link in the chat in just a moment. But we have a video that illustrates all of this. Definitely check that out if you have more questions. So let's talk about automations. This will really take your accounting feature and accounting experience to the next level, because this is going to simplify things. We've set up payees, which will save you a lot of time. We've created rules, which will save you even more time after you set those up. But automations are great. because the software will do the work for you according to either a timetable or some sort of trigger. Now, under automate, to get here, all you have to do is go to the settings feature in ChurchTrac. That's the very last feature in the menu, and then click the automations tab at the very top of the screen. This is where you can create an automation and edit it or make any changes you need to. To get started, just click the add button, and then give the automation a name. We could just do something generic like example automation. And you have the option below that to either set up an automation for your people or for something else in the application. Because this is accounting related, it has nothing to do with people.
Right.
Select application automation and then click add automation at the very bottom. Now we have to then choose what we want this automation to do. And that's what we call actions. So we click the add a new action button. And let's say we want to email a report from the accounting screen, because I mean, this is about transparency. It's a huge factor in our church's finances and accounting. So let's say we want the pastor or like a board member to receive a report every single month on the church's accounting. So click the email and accounting screen report, select and configure. Now all we have to do is choose which report we want to run. So we can do like the income statement or the balance sheet, and then select which user we want to receive this. So if you click that, I think it's probably just Lori is the only user of this account right now. But you can add your pastor, your board members, your treasurer, everybody else can be added in as a user, and you can select that person to be the recipient. So you can say you want the past month or this month.
Well, there are multiple choices in here, but typically this would be something you did on a monthly basis.
Yeah. So you can say like last month, go ahead and select last month for this scenario, and then save action. Once you're done saying what you want this report, what you want this automation to do, under automation options, say when you want this to run. And you could say every month on the last day of the month. So last Sunday or last day. That's actually the very top option. Scroll up to the top. Yeah. On the last day of the month, you can say the prior month. That way it runs that report and gives you everything that happened last month. Or actually, you would probably just do if I say last month, and put the last day of the month, it would be a whole month behind. So you do the first day of the month. There we go. So yeah, you'd select like the first day of the month. That way the report gives you what just occurred.
I like the way you're working out your logic as you do it, because that's actually the best way to think this through, is to verbalize it. Because you think in your head, oh, I've got this, and you go and do it, and then it doesn't work, and you go, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, you're thinking, well, at the end of the month. So the last month, that's the prior month. But no, that's literally the whole entire month ago.
Exactly.
Not the current month you're in right now. So then save changes, and you're done. Now that this is set up, whoever Lori selected earlier, which she selected herself, but whichever user Lori selected to receive this, it's going to get that report automatically.
On the 1st of June.
Yeah. And this is great for transparency because it's just one less thing you have to think of. It's done automatically. But also now that you know that this is being done automatically,
you're gonna
puts
get
a little fire under your butt.
Yeah, you're just you're like, oh, I have to make sure that everything is accounted for because this is gonna automatically run. And that's a good thing. It's a very good thing. For accountability is everything, Matt.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are a few last little pro tips we want to share before we get into the Q&A section. I know there's been a bunch of questions dropped in the chat. I've answered some of them. If you have more questions, hold on to them for just a second. Don't drop them into the chat yet, because I'm going to activate a Q&A mode where you can drop in your questions there. And we can actually even vote on them and make sure everyone's taken care of. But think through those questions as I share these pro tips. Make sure that you're using the deposit button on the giving screen. I know this is unrelated to accounting, but it is related to accounting.
But it is related to accounting.
On the giving screen, Lori's got an example of like donations that have been made and recorded here. Once you have this batch completed and you've verified everything, click the Actions button and then select the Create Deposit button. That takes all of these donations and moves them into the accounting screen. This way, you don't have to record it again. You don't have to do it twice.
Well, you get to choose your account, Matt.
Well, not only, you can choose which account that it's deposited into and then create deposit for $162. That way, you're not having to enter it in the giving screen and then enter it again in the accounting screen.
Where things can get messed up.
But what's great about this is it retains the category information. Mm-hmm. So if people designated something specific, like a missionary, that'll show up on the accounting screen too.
And then you can run an accounting report and see who is supposed to get what. And I have some churches, Matt, that actually run reports monthly. They just let everything come in, and then they run reports monthly for each missionary, and then they just make one check out to the missionary. So this is a very functional blessing. I mean,
Yes.
it really is a blessing, because then when you go over here to your, for example, account, you go, okay, where was that? I'm just going to flip this because I went to the top of the screen. There's that deposit, and it's 2022, so I could find it.
Easy. I see. Well, you did that. That's funny. But yeah, there's that giving deposit. If she clicks on it, it would show you it would even break out all the different line items for different categories and everything. So it would show you how it was broken down without retaining the names, which is important. So like your pastor can be given access to the accounting screen, but not see who gave and how much.
Exactly. Now, there's one more thing that I like to talk about as far as your online giving goes.
Yes.
A big thing that people do with online giving is in the giving screen, when you are utilizing online giving, you'll have your transaction here and it'll say online giving. When you go to click the create deposit button, a window opens up from the right, and it allows you to pick your default giving bank account. Where is your money going? You think, oh, well, big deal, it doesn't matter. Well, actually, if you've set up your Stripe online giving, and that money is automatically paying out to a bank account, you want those payouts, those exact same payouts, to go into the right account. So you set this up. Then you set the online giving fee. It is not a giving category. It is a fee category. So you need an online giving fee.
Yeah, somebody in the chat asked earlier, it was about PayPal, not Stripe, but how to like manage the fact that for donors, you record the full donated amount.
Correct.
That's what goes on the contribution statement. But the church's bank account doesn't reflect that because there's a fee that was taken out of it by the processor. So this is how you manage that. You have to create an expense
fee
category in the accounting screen and assign that category to online giving transactions.
And I actually have mine right here.
Perfect.
But Matt, let me show you something that's really cool. And this is a masterclass, so this is something that would benefit our people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You import those whatever transactions from wherever, because you're not using Stripe, you're using other platforms, and that's fine. When you import that data, the payouts go to your bank. What you need to do is you need to go in and you need to look at the statement from whatever company that is and look at the gross amount that was deposited into your bank account. Find that or enter it into ChurchTrac as a transaction, okay? This is your deposit, general fund, blah, blah, blah. We'll say that it was $989, okay? Add a line item and go to online giving fee. Then do a negative, okay? Say it was $45. I don't know how much that works. When you tab through it, this amount should match the actual bank deposit for that payout. You can track your online giving fees without a problem. You can edit, because you're manually entering or importing those transactions. You can find out what the gross amount is minus the fee and have that be accurate so that your budget, because online giving fees is a budgeted item. It's something you want to be able to track with how much are we losing by using online giving. Most churches find that they are gaining money because the people are giving more regularly. But sometimes the fees that you're paying for those monthly services and then the fees that you're paying on the transactions equates to a lot. So that might motivate you to change to something that's more economical.
To find a better, more affordable option. Now there's something that I've heard you say before that I think is really insightful. That even though a church isn't a business, the finances need to be handled like one.
As a business.
Yes. So whenever you're doing your accounting, you need to make sure that you maintain the highest level of transparency and accountability and accuracy.
Absolutely.
That's why we talked about reconciling.
Absolutely.
It feels like a niche thing, but it's crucial
not a niche
for every single nonprofit.
It's a business requirement.
It is an absolute requirement. That's why we recommend creating that automation that sends that report, because it motivates you to log in and make sure everything is accurate and up to date on a regular basis.
You can't believe, Matt, how many churches don't do this, and
wait weeks and months.
I mean, years. Years.
Yeah, true.
Years of information.
We have seen that too.
The difficult part about keeping in mind that your church is a business that has to be run like one is the fact that we have this mentality that the church won't, nobody's going to do that because we're a church. You are a church. You are going to be persecuted. Keep that in mind. That's why you have to be honest and above board and upright and transparent and do all the things that are required because we want to maintain that.
Yes. Now, we'll end on that note, but not really end it. We're going to go into our Q&A time now. I just launched the Q&A. Go ahead and, we're going to have an actual question and answer session. We've gone a little bit over, but we know that a lot of you still have questions. So what I've done is I've activated the Q&A. All you have to do is type in your question. It'll appear on a screen for us to read, but also the rest of you can read other people's questions, and you can even actually upvote them or like them. And the more likes or upvotes they get, the higher priority it'll be given. So it'll actually be pushed for us to see it. So go ahead and start asking your questions there in the Q&A mode. While you're thinking through your questions or you're adding them in here, I want to remind everybody, I'll drop this in the chat. We have a YouTube channel that we would love for you to subscribe to. I'll drop that in the chat again. There we go. We would love for you to subscribe to that YouTube channel so that you can stay up to date on everything that we're doing there. It's also a great resource with videos we've done on all the different features in ChurchTrac accounting and other parts of the ChurchTrac account as well. So that's a great resource to learn more and utilize the software to its fullest potential. We also have a Facebook group that you can join as well. It's a great community. You can ask questions about the software there or even get information and inspiration on other things, no matter whether it's about ChurchTrac or anything else.
I love being inspired.
Yes. All right. So we got a couple questions rolling in. Karen Ricker asked, can you set up an automation to send financial reports to non-users, such as elders/deacons who do not have a ChurchTrac address? The answer actually is no. They have to be a user in ChurchTrac to receive a report. But you can add as many users as you want or need to. And you can set what permissions they have,
That's
like what
correct.
they can access and what they can't.
Right.
So you can add your deacons and your elders and your bishops and your ushers and your everybody.
And you just control what they have access to versus just giving them everything.
Yes.
That's the whole thing.
All right, Christine Stavros, I hope I said your last name correctly. How would you record credit card transactions where one monthly payment occurs, but you need to capture the individual transaction details by category and fund? It sounds like what you would do for that, if you have like a credit card account, you would go into your checking account, which is what you pay it out of, and do an account-to-account transfer. And that's where you can then load in like the different categories.
No.
Oh,
Okay,
Go
that's
ahead.
a really good question. So if you notice, when I did the accounts, I actually had a credit card, a liability. The best thing that you can do, Christine, is when you are entering your credit card transactions, you enter them in your liability account. You put all the details, as Wes would say, all the things go in here. No matter what your spending is, all of it, all of those details go into every line item you have in here. And this is what builds your liability, okay? Then, when you go to pay the payment, you do an account-to-account transfer from the main checking to that liability, and that actually reduces the liability. Some churches are able to pay that balance off every month. Sometimes there's been charges after the credit card statement is closed, so you still have a running balance, but you pay the statement balance. That's fine. It does not matter as long as you're paying the bill. And then you're doing that account-to-account transfer. We have resources that we can provide you for that. Reach out to support. We want to be a blessing with this.
All right, Christine Stavros, I meant to illustrate this or point this out earlier, so I apologize that we didn't. But you asked, can you seasonalize certain line items in the budget to reflect expected timing versus 1/12 each month? The answer actually is yes. If you click the Actions button, I'm
sorry, you're right.
You can either click on the line item itself or click the Actions button and edit. You'll see to the right, there's a per year, there's a thing that says per year. If you select that, it then allows you to select or just click on one of the transactions, I guess. Yeah, there it is. So under the budget item period, you can say what month or what period you want this to be budgeted for. So you can have a whole annual budget, but still have seasonalized items within that annual budget. And that's how you would do that. You just click on that line item of the budget, make that change, and select what period you want this to run for. Thank you very much for Christine.
It's like
Christine
snow
for asking
removal,
that.
and it's not going to happen in July, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully not. Well, unless you're watching Hallmark and they do, what, Christmas in July?
Christmas in July.
All right, Lawrence, can you provide a sample set of rules to give us an idea of how we may use this tool? We don't have a sample set of rules because there's no one size fits all for that. Every church is going to have something different and different rules. We do have an article in our user guide that illustrates exactly how to use this feature in more detail than what even we went into, with some examples. So I definitely check that out. I'll drop that in the chat in just a second so that you have that. But that's a great resource for getting some ideas and inspiration for how to use that feature. Oscar, is there a feature to pay payees or vendors via direct deposit? No, this is not, even though you can link your bank account to ChurchTrac, you're not paying into or out of with this. This is not something that actually extracts money out of your bank account. It's not a bill payer. Yeah, it's not a bill payer. Thank you. That's a more succinct way to say it than what I was about to say. But yeah, you would have to actually pay, like send them a check or pay them from the bank.
Right.
And then that would reflect on your register in ChurchTrac.
Right, exactly.
Jan Loomis, how do we set up the building asset value and the mortgage liability? That's a question for you.
Okay, Jan, that is an extremely advanced option that we have available to you in support, but we don't put that out as a public just because it's not really an intended way to use ChurchTrac, but it can be done. It's just more complicated, so you really need to be able to work with a support person to follow the instructions that we provide you. So reach out to support, you will get an answer, and it's going to be about that long. I'm kidding, It's only about that long, but still, it's a little bit more complicated, but again, it'll help you.
Michael Boss, like a boss, said, is there a report to compare this year actual to same period last year?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and show them. It's under the budgets, actions. Actually, you have to select the budget first.
So you have to be on your budget to make it work, but because you have to have something that's a budget versus actual. But the budget versus actual report is actually one of my favorite reports, just simply because it does tell you this is where you stand and this is what your budget was, and it's actually opposite of that, but because I'm facing the camera, I did it that way. So it's a really, really cool report, and it's got lots of detail in it.
Yes. Stacy Ben asked a really cool question. Can more than one organization use the same account under different names? For example, if the church has an elderly home that it manages separate from the church, can both organizations use the same account? To manage the books, no. You would probably still have to have your own account in ChurchTrac for the
you would
home.
Share categories and you would share funds, and so in essence it would get very complicated and be very hard to track because there's nothing specific about your elder care home versus the church's budget and that kind of thing. So it would be better to have two different accounting platforms.
Otherwise, because even if you were to create unique funds for that and unique categories for it and unique checking accounts, the possibility of crossing those streams is still really high.
Ghostbusters.
Yep. So let's see here. Can we enter, Michael Boss asks, can we enter an invoice into accounts payable, then pay via check at a later date?
No. Michael, you're actually thinking more of a dual entry platform, so we don't have that. Typically, what you will do is you will pay your invoices as you receive them. I actually do have customers. Let me preface what I'm going to say with, this is not how ChurchTrac recommends things to be done, but I actually do have customers that go ahead and put the check entry in the program to be paid at a later date, and they put the date they intend to pay it. That means you have to be extremely OCD about your finances, and that's the only way that I would run that in that manner.
Now, I've just been made aware that some people have lost the connection to the video. Just refresh or reload your browser if that's you at any time, and that should reconnect you to anything that we're showing you. All right, Stacy Ben asked, we already answered that one. Valerie Evans, should your accounts be reconciled first before sending automations like income reports once a month?
That's really personal preference. I mean, ideally it would, but the reconciliation is not going to affect the numbers. So that's what goes back to me telling you to be sure to enter all of your transactions, whether they have cleared the bank or not. The idea with this is the financial reports are going to show the entire picture. The reconciliation only shows what cleared the bank. Does that help?
Yes. Now, Lawrence, you asked the question that I kind of answered a while ago. Picking up on Stacy Ben's question, can two organizations use the same ChurchTrac account via separating out funds? We don't recommend it, simply because the possibility that you'll, again, cross those streams is really high.
Yeah.
And that would mess up your reporting and get things very messy.
And there would not be specific reporting for that entity. It would be specific. It would be even your income statement would be all of your categories, not just the church or the entity.
Yeah. Jana asked, am I missing something? Do people have to manually import their Stripe deposits?
No.
Mine get automatically imported with the amounts being added to the correct funds. No, you don't have to.
The problem is that some people don't actually set up the automatic deposits. So I go back to your giving screen. When you actually click on that Stripe online giving date, when you click on it, that side window opens from the right, and it actually has the preferences, and then you check the box to automatically create those deposits.
Yes.
What that does is it doesn't take the giving broken out by date, Matt. It actually does the payout that Stripe sends to your bank, and it puts that in your ChurchTrac checking account.
So it really, really matches up.
So it really, really matches up.
Perfect. All right, Larry H. Does Stripe send the fees and the deposit as separate transactions? I don't think no, it actually sends it all as one batch.
Yeah, it's gonna, so Stripe's payout is going to be exactly what went to your bank. But Larry, what you can do is you can go into Stripe and you can click on that payout. You have to find your payout. You click on it. It opens up all the details, and it tells you who gave and how much they gave, and then what those transaction fees were. When you get your deposit into ChurchTrac, it will show one amount, but when you open that entry, it actually shows all the category details of what everybody gave to and the giving fee. And sometimes there is a second line item and it will say in the note, unknown fees. That's actually a known fee. It's just categorized that way because of how Stripe sends the information in, but that's usually related to the $1.50 verification fee for the ACH contributions. Each time a person adds a bank account or verifies a bank account through Stripe to give via ACH, there is a $1.50 fee. Once that's set up, they just continue to use that bank account, and it's a quarter each time. But that would be a separate fee.
Yeah. Anonymous asked, can I just delete everything and start over as long as I have all the bank statements?
Yes, you can.
Listen, we tell churches this a lot because frankly, just a little insight on what we experience on this side of the software. We talk to a lot of church leaders that have like a lot of accounting history. And let's say whether they're using the ChurchTrac software or maybe they just joined and they have like a million spreadsheets that they're trying to add into ChurchTrac. Frankly, we tell them just to hit the reset button. As long as you know what's in the bank, what funds you have, and how much is supposed to be in those funds right now, you can start over. If it's just a huge mess and you want a clean slate, that's the way to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And don't be embarrassed or afraid or ashamed. That's just the best route to take, and we'll be right there answering your questions along the way as you set that up.
And certainly go in and if you do that, if you choose that option, go in, have us look at it, because that way we can tell you if you're moving forward in the right direction or if there's something you need to change to make it work more efficiently for you.
Now, there's two questions that are pretty similar. Tim asked, would you want to sync to bank if you were pulling in from gifts and doing checks? Seems like it would double up transactions. And then Patricia earlier asked, is it better to do an automation for repeated transactions and not sync, or to sync and then make changes? What we recommend is that you do bank sync. If it's an option from your bank, like if your bank is compatible with this, definitely do the bank sync. If you have transactions like donations, if you're recording donations and then depositing that into the accounting screen and you're worried about that pulling in from the bank sync, just don't import that transaction.
Right, because what's going to happen is if you're depositing from the giving screen and that's what you want to do for
Yes.
all those details that you're entering and giving,
Yes.
click the giving screen deposit in your bank account. When you do that sync or import, all of that comes into the main screen, and there'll be a little triangle there with an exclamation point in it that says it looks like this is a duplicate transaction.
So we'll anticipate that.
You can skip that duplicate transaction by checking it and just going through and verifying that they are or aren't, because this does take a little work. The bank doesn't know and ChurchTrac doesn't know. You have to be that confirmer. If it's a duplicate, skip it, go to actions, skip check transactions, and that just removes them so that you can concentrate on what you do need to import.
Yes. So you won't have the duplicates. Again, since we're putting the transactions into a holding pattern from the bank, there's not going to be a duplicate automatically. You can verify that and then skip that transaction so it doesn't pull in twice. I
have seen, and I'm just going to throw this out there for you, Matt. I actually have seen a bank that sends in 2 transactions for every transaction that was, and I don't know why they're doing it. It's just a hiccup. And so the person that's dealing with this is having to go in and clear those transactions. If you know that the bank is sending every transaction in duplicately, it doesn't trigger that there's a duplicate because it's nothing in ChurchTrac. It's actually just coming from the bank that way. Then you can just import every other transaction and make it easy. But yeah, there are some little quirks.
Yeah. And then to answer the other question about like the automation, we recommend doing the sync and setting up rules instead of creating automations for regular transactions.
Right.
Because the bank is already doing that work. And if you set up the rule, then there's nothing else left for you to do.
If you don't have sync as an option, you can certainly set up that automation and make that work for you. And then when you import your bank statement, you're just reconciling and checking things off. That's the idea.
Anonymous asked, who should do the reconciliation? The treasurer or the accountant? Should it be a different person than the one entering the transactions?
This gets a little sticky. So if you've hired an accountant, you don't have to have an accountant to do ChurchTrac. That's kind of the point, is we're trying to save you money from having to have an external resource. The treasurer, and usually in the way I'm seeing it, Matt, is the treasurer works with a secondary person. There's usually 2 signers on checks and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that there is a verification process, that things are being checked and balanced between more than one person. So 2 people should be working on this together, but it doesn't necessarily have to be one enters and one confirms. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, having 2 sets of eyes on something.
2 sets of eyes is always better than having one person and you're taking that person's the end all be all of your treasury. That's not necessarily a good idea.
Yeah. Michael asked, can you make journal entries? And the answer is yes. When you're adding a transaction in that little reference field, you can select JE for journal entry and then enter the information from there.
But some people do confuse, Matt, the journal entry as a way of just making a note in the account. You can do that, but if you put a monetary amount in that amount field, it's going to affect your balances. So if you need to make an adjustment as a journal entry, absolutely you can. But if you're just putting a note in there that for something, don't put an amount in there. Because
so
that transaction
what would they do? Just put something in the memo line if they want to like actually leave some sort of a note there? Okay, that makes sense. All right, Jan, kudos to your support team for getting answers back to us in a timely manner. Very
Thanks,
helpful,
Jan.
yes. Lori loves to hear that because she's the boss.
Well.
Gordon asked, how do we set up accounts receivable and accounts payable? Gordon, you have asked that question like 3 or 4 times in the chat, so let's answer.
ChurchTrac is a single entry accounting platform, so it doesn't have accounts payable and accounts receivable. You actually are working this as a glorified checkbook, if you will, Gordon. The idea behind this is it's simpler than that. You don't have to work that hard to still have everything that accounts payable and accounts receivable offers you. When you get a bill, you put the bill in to pay it. You don't schedule it. You don't have to go in and enter it as an entry up here to be taken out at another time. It's just a simple. It sounds so simple. I don't mean to make it too simple, but it is run more like a checkbook than it is a ledger, if you will.
Yeah.
Than it is double entry.
Yes. Let's see, Gary. We'll do just a few more questions. We're definitely running over our time, so we'll do just a few more. Gary asked, how long is data available in ChurchTrac? Should an annual backup be made for local records? Gary, you have access to the account for as long as you pay for it, frankly. There's no, we don't wipe it every year.
Nope.
You have it for as long as you continue to subscribe to it. And you can even retroactively add information going back as far back as you want. So you can have information going back 1,000 years if your church existed back then.
I think sometimes that question, Matt, is motivated by the fact that people don't realize that reports are run by date ranges. So just because the little drop down in your reports shows, for example, January 31st, 2024, February 29th, 2024, March 30th, you're not limited here. If you click in the white space, I'm in the wrong.
Go to the reports. Yeah, you're in the budgets tab. Go to reports.
If you click in the white space on your reports, this is a calendar picker, and you can go in and pick any date you want. So by virtue of this, you can go back as far as you want to. So as long as your account stays up to date, you are going to have access to all of the data that you've entered into ChurchTrac.
Yes. Valerie asked, if my bank and my Amex will not sync, I'm still manually entering. Any other solutions for this issue? Do the statement import.
You're right. Typically, the statement import is going to allow you to go to American Express or go to your bank and see if you have a statement in that format. And when I say in that format, Valerie, it's actually pretty easy to find. For example, when you go into my For Example account and you scroll to the bottom, in the import sync, when I go to upload a file, it tells you OFX, QFX, QIF, and QBO. Even if they say they don't offer it in that platform, I can assure you, when you contact them, most can give you one of these export options to import. I don't know why you would have those limitations, but certainly if there's a question about this, you can go ahead and reach out to support. We can direct you, give you some instructions. That's like 1% of banks in the United States are not part of the link and sync option. Yeah. And unfortunately, I can't control that. But
yeah. This is the last question we'll take. Stacy asked, is this software available in any country? I ask because some accounting software, example QuickBooks Advance, is only available in the US. And the answer is, if you have access to the internet, you can subscribe to ChurchTrac and use it. So as long as you have access to the internet, you're good to go.
Yep.
All right, that's it. We have answered all the questions. We have a live stream next week if any of you are interested for the Church Connect feature. Definitely subscribe or sign up to join us. We'll do like what we just did today, but for the Connect feature, just to show you how to set it up, how to use it to its fullest potential, and all the fun stuff like that. Don't forget about our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe there. Join our Facebook group.
Absolutely.
We would love to see you in that group as well. And just check in on us and reach out to the support team with any questions that you have going forward after this is over. Hope you have a blessed day.
Bye.